It was finally time to leave the Marquesa Islands, and here I'm leaving Uapo Hakahau Harbor. Now, French Polynesian is divided into three main areas: the Marquesa Islands, the Tuamotos Atolls, which would be my next destination, and finally the Society Islands, which includes Tahiti and Bora Bora. So this was going to be a solo voyage, and in fact, most of my trip from here on was solo. So it took me 5 days to get to the Tuamotus, and I had to time it so that I could arrive at the pass with daylight and also with the right tide, which would be a high tide. The tidal current going between the islands of the atolls can be very rapid at times, so you have to be very careful to hit the passes at the right time, usually high tide. Now, for people that don't know what an atoll is a circle of islands. It's created by the sinking of a volcano over many millions of years and the growth upwards of coral, which leaves behind a ring of islands. Now, the last time I'd been in an atoll or to an atoll was about 30 years before that, and that was Enewetak Atoll. So here you see it's very calm inside the lagoon of these atolls, and the people that colonized these places many hundreds and thousands of years ago, they used the lagoons for fishing and also for anchoring their vessels. You can see you can see how calm it is. There's sand beaches on all the inward-facing islands, or motus as they're called. And so I anchored in an area about 20 meters deep, and I found out when I went to leave that there was a lot of coral down there. So you can see it's really calm, and it was so nice to go back to an atoll after all these years. They're primarily found, or maybe even mostly found, in the Pacific, and I did go to quite a few atolls after this one, but this is my first one. And so while I was there, I met the guy who was running the radio station in the atoll, and he's actually the former commander of the French naval fleet. He's retired, but very interesting to talk to this guy. So I went to his house, and he showed me the radio station that he'd set up for cruisers, giving them weather and information about the islands when they come there. So I got to meet him and his family, and just did a little diving in the lagoon. I didn't really do much diving outside, but the diving is quite spectacular. The next atoll I visited, Rangiroa, has really amazing marine life. So I stayed there about a week, and just kind of enjoying going for little dinghy rides into shore, and just enjoying the place. I was pretty much alone there. There were a couple of other boats, but I knew that eventually I would have to be leaving. And about this time I found out that my anchor was really stuck about 60 feet down in a bunch of dead coral, like actually really giant coral trees. And so I had to go and free dive down and untangle the chain from it, and then drive up on the chain and basically jerk it free. And it was nice because when I went out the pass, the former naval commander told me, he just said, nice job doing that, because I told him about my problem. So again, I timed the exit from the lagoon for high tide. And then I began to sail to the next group. Well, the next group of islands are the Society Islands. Most people know about Tahiti, but there's actually about 7 main islands there. I had some problems with the boat. Basically, the engine, the starter would not work, so I had to use a screwdriver to jump start it, which actually made me a better sailor because I really couldn't use the engine very much. So it took about, I think it was 3 days to get to the first island, which was Tahiti. And here's Tahiti. This is the capital, Papeete. And I didn't stay too long in Tahiti. It's actually quite a large city, Papeete. It's a good place to provision, to get food and things, and then to set off for the other islands in the group, which is a really beautiful group of islands. As I was going in, there was a large cargo ship entering. They get very large boats going in. Now this is Marina Taina, which is where I kept my boat. There were a lot of boats there. Some really, really fancy multi-million-dollar boats. In the background, you can see Moorea, which is the island across the strait, which is the place that I went to pretty much as soon as I could. And you know, it was, and here is entering a Punahou Bay in Moorea, and there were about 20 boats in there. It's a really lush, very scenic, and very historic place. The valleys, this is the valley at the head of the bay, and there are all kinds of artifacts and things up there. So I did a hike up there. I also took the dinghy around the bay. Now there was a development on the next bay over. I believe it's called Cook's Bay. Primarily, of course, for tourists. It's a pretty pricey looking place. But these islands were all visited by Captain Cook in the 1760s, actually 1769. So a lot of the places are named after him. Here I am in my dinghy, kind of at the head of the bay. As I said, there were some giant sailboats going through there. Now I met a couple of cruisers, and we did a bicycle trip around Moorea. And this is that tourist development, and that's Tahiti across the way. Here I am with a couple of other cruisers. We visited a marae, which is a ancient Polynesian stone temple. These marae are very similar to the heiaus that they have in Hawaii, but they're primarily of religious and ceremonial function. These upright stones represent monuments to ancestors, because they were really into ancestor worship. And here the marae are delimited by these coral slabs, and there's usually a beach nearby. Now I had visited one of these heiaus in Hawaii. This is a game called Konani, which is similar to checkers, but it was invented by the Hawaiians, and then it was exported to French Polynesia. It's basically similar to checkers in that you jump over other stones. Usually it's coral and lava rock. So I left Moorea, and here I am sailing. It was about an overnight sail to an island called Raiatea. And Raiatea is considered the center of French Polynesia. It's the second biggest society island after Tahiti, and it's surrounded by a fringing reef, a coral reef that grows up. Now here you see in the distance, you see Taha, which is a nearby island. They share a common lagoon, and it takes about 20 minutes to go from Raiatea to Taha. Now this is the pass used by Captain Cook when he entered Raiatea. He had to make repairs there. He had his 3 boats there, and they were all repaired. Unfortunately, they also introduced disease and vermin and things like that. So I took a trip over to Taha, which is that island on the top that I showed you. And it's known for its pearls there. This is black lip pearls, which produce the black pearls. This guy is culturing them, or grafting as it's called, because what you do essentially is to open the living oyster, the black-lipped oyster, and you insert a very small piece of shell, a fragment of shell, along with a piece of flesh from another oyster. And this stimulates the growth of the pearl. It makes it produce a coating from the inside of the shell called the nacre. And this little bit of flesh also induces it to produce colors in the pearl. These are the pearl shell, the oyster shells, black-lipped oyster, and they produce pearls of different colors. Now, you can see the variation here. True black pearls are very unusual. They generally occur in shades of gray, even green. It depends on the color of the shell, but they're always graded. Now, another export, pearls are the #1 export. Vanilla is also important, and vanilla is native to Central and South America. It grows as a vine, but the bee that pollinates vanilla is not found outside of Central and South America, so they have to pollinate them by hand, which can only be done during the summer months, and it can only be done for a few hours during the day when it's cool. They require a very moist sort of a soil substrate, and the flower has both male and female organs, and they're separated by a membrane. The male organ is called the anther, and so what the pollinators do is they pull down that membrane, which allows the pollen to enter the anther, which is what the guy has his fingers on right here, which contains the eggs, actually the seeds, and they produce the pods that eventually turn into the vanilla bean. So on this trip, we continued around the island of Tahaa, and saw a lot of interesting sights. It's not very heavily populated. Now, this looks like grapefruit. It's very close related. In French Polynesia, they're called pamplemousse, and they're like a grapefruit on steroids. They can be up to a foot in diameter, and they're very sweet. And it's really a really nice thing because people will offer you pamplemousse wherever you go. If you're walking along, it's very common to have them offered to you. Now, the churches are primarily Catholic. So finally it became time to leave French Polynesia and the Society Islands. In the distance there you see Bora Bora, a very distinctive island. I went there for a short time, but I had to do a lot of repairs. It turned out I went to a nearby atoll and I had problems with the exhaust system. Actually, the exhaust system broke. So I had to return to Bora Bora and spend most of my time finding a welder who could make me a exhaust pipe. And from there, I set sail. And I set sail originally for Samoa, but I had to change course, and I ended up going to the Cook Islands, which was a really nice place to be. And so if you like this video, I'm going to be, my next one will be about the Cook Islands, and so if you liked it, I'll be having another one coming up soon, and if you could share and subscribe, that would be great too. So, okay, bye.